It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as we look at whether WWE are about to debut the next Brock Lesnar. Matt Hardy wants his brother Jeff to join AEW, and Tony Khan has some surprises planned as AEW return to the road. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker recently appeared at the Steel City Comic-Con and was asked who her dream opponents would be. Britt went on to name two WWE wrestlers that she'd love to get in the ring with and said, "Probably Bayley or Sasha Banks. It'd have to be one of them because those are two of my role models that I watched when I was first training to be a wrestler. So that's something. But I mean, that's 5 years ago, so that's when I was training. They were main eventing NXT TakeOver, so that was when the tides were turning. They kind of paved the way for my generation of wrestling. Even though they're still my generation, they came before me." Obviously, Bayley and especially Sasha Banks are two of the biggest names in women's wrestling, and an interpromotional match between Britt and either of them would be pretty cool. Of course, in order for this to happen, Sasha or Bayley would need to either join AEW or Britt would need to go to WWE, because WWE working with AEW in any wrestling capacity just isn't going to happen. But hey, who knows? I did predict Britt to go to WWE in my WWE AEW Jumps video, so it would be nice to check another one off the list. On last week's AEW Dynamite, Andrade El Idolo had a sit-down interview with Jim Ross to discuss his future in All Elite Wrestling, having signed for the promotion earlier this month. Andrade made it clear that he deserves a shot at the AEW TNT Championship, which is of course held by Miro, as well as Kenny Omega's AEW World title. The belt collector has responded to the Idol's remarks and reminded him that in AEW, wins matter. He said, "I checked the win-loss record, he ain't even close. Wins and losses count here, brah." And I think that's the first time I've ever said brah in a video. Andrade is yet to wrestle a match in AEW, therefore seems to be out of the title picture for now. However, as we've discussed before, the two will meet in August at Triple Mania for the AAA Mega Championship, a match which Andrade earned without even wrestling a single match. This is likely what Omega is referring to, as well as maybe a subtle jab at Andrade's former employer up in Stamford. Next up, a big NXT debut has been teased on Twitter, with a certain Performance Center trainee posting a photo of himself alongside Triple H, who of course is in charge of the Black and Gold brand. Parker Boudreaux, who is a former college football player, has been touted as the next Brock Lesnar, even receiving endorsement from the Beast's advocate himself, Paul Heyman. Along with the photo, Parker posted the caption, "It's time to play the game," which is not only a reference to Triple H's old theme music, but could also be a hint that he himself is ready to step foot in the ring sometime soon. Interestingly, the Wrestling Observer recently released a list of WWE PC recruits that were impressing, and surprisingly, Boudreaux was not mentioned by those within the company as a standout. Either way, it seems that he could be in for a big debut sometime soon, and whilst living up to his Brock Lesnar comparisons will be tough, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how WWE can develop him on and off screen going forward. AEW President Tony Khan recently appeared on the Wrestling with Brandon F. Walker show in order to promote AEW's upcoming return to the road. Khan went on to discuss mistakes that he's made during his time as a wrestling promoter and believes AEW are good at fixing things up when they are no longer working. Specifically, Khan spoke of his lack of interest in the broken Matt Hardy character, with Hardy debuting in AEW in March last year and originally appearing as his broken persona. Khan spoke of his decision to scrap broken Matt Hardy and said, "A great example I think would be, and he would be totally fine with me saying this, I was not as into broken Matt Hardy as other people were. I've said this on Jericho's podcast, that thing he did with time travel, that was the craziest Dynamite of all time other than the Atlanta tapings. Matt Hardy and Chris were trying to talk me into it, specifically Chris liked the idea of Matt teleporting. Dude, I'm lucky these guys are even here, but the idea of teleportation, I was just like, alright, I'm just lucky you guys are here. At that point, it was a miracle the show was even coming off." He went on to praise Matt Hardy for his character development since then, as he turned into the villainous Big Money Matt. Khan said, To get to the point, we are now with Big Money Matt and the stuff we're doing now. I feel like sometimes if you don't like an idea, you can move on and do something else. And I think Matt Hardy and the stuff he's done with Private Party, The Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, and now with Christian Cage, is super compelling. He's really become a center figure in the show. As fresh as Broken Matt was in 2016, it never quite worked in AEW or in WWE for that matter, and I'm glad Hardy has moved on from it. Much like the Alexa Bliss stuff in WWE, I think we've had enough of teleporting, spooky, magical characters for one generation, and AEW needs to continue to stay clear of the path WWE are seemingly heading down in order to offer an alternative. But what do you think? Does Broken Matt Hardy still have a place in AEW? Let me know in the comments down below. And speaking of Matt Hardy, the AEW star recently hosted his first ever stream on his YouTube channel where he held a Q&A. Hardy went on to talk about the WWE return of the Hardy Boys along with his brother Jeff at WrestleMania 33, which received one of the biggest pops in the modern era. Matt said that it still gives him goosebumps to this day and mentioned that he hopes to end his career as a team with Jeff, hinting at a possible reunion of the Hardys. He said, "The gimmick I would like to end my career on, and I'm pretty confident in saying this, I would like to finish my career teaming with my brother as the Hardy Boys. Real life Matt and real life Jeff just doing our thing. That is, I feel like, a beautiful way to tie up a career. It's probably going to be 30 years for both of us, probably over 30 years when it's all said and done. To go out the way you came in, that's super cool. I would like to finish my career with Jeff Hardy, my brother, as a team." He added where he'd like the reunion to take place, stating that he wants it to happen in AEW, and said, "To correct the record, I would love to have Jeff Hardy come to AEW just so we could team together, and there's a lot of great teams there. A proper Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks feud would be amazing. Personally, I've always loved the Hardy Boys and it would be great to see them have a run in AEW before their careers come to an end. I always remember having Royal Rumble 2000 on VHS as a kid, and after the Swanton spot, I thought Jeff Hardy was the coolest guy in the world." And quickly before we continue, if you're enjoying the video so far, why not give it a like as it helps me continue to grow the channel, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content. And now that you've done that, let's get on with the rest of the video. In the same interview we spoke of earlier in the video, Tony Khan discussed potential upcoming surprises now that AEW are returning to a touring schedule. As we know, AEW Dynamite will once again begin to be held in different arenas across the United States starting on July 7th with the Road Rager special in Miami, Florida. 3 more specials will follow, with a 2-night Fyter Fest on the 14th and 21st, live from Cedar Park and Garland, Texas respectively. The run of specials will then culminate in Charlotte, North Carolina for Fight for the Fallen on the 28th. 2 weeks after that, AEW's second TNT show Rampage will debut on August 13th, which is being billed as Britt Baker's homecoming live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. During his interview with Walker, Tony Khan dropped a hint that we could be in for some big surprises and moments for fans to look forward to ahead of this run of shows. He said, "I have a lot of stuff up my sleeve. I have a lot of stuff. I'm not going to BS you. I have a lot of stuff up my sleeve for the next year. Nobody knows. It's going to be a big year." It's currently unclear exactly what Khan is referring to, but he could be talking about new signings, big surprises like title changes, or perhaps some more New Japan talent showing up on Dynamite when fans return. If you recall, Khan told the media after Revolution earlier this year that he had some aces up his sleeve for 2021, leading many to think that this was a hint at Hiroshi Tanahashi showing up in AEW. He seems to have chosen a different choice of words this time around, so who knows what he has planned going forward. But let me know what surprises you'd like to see in AEW, you guessed it, in the comments down below. And if you're interested in more videos from me, make sure you check out my Jon Moxley documentary where I chronicle his AEW World Championship reign.